Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Brittnee. 'Tis the season for pumpkin, and today I've got the most exquisite layered cake recipe for you. If you're a fan of the old pumpkin spice latte, there's no way that you won't love this recipe. It has layers of pumpkin cake with espresso, candied pecans, espresso caramel, and dark chocolate. If you'd like to download all of the recipes for today's video, just click the link in the description box down below. Now, because making this cake and also finishing it has a lot of steps, this video is going to be one of 3. In this video, I will show you how to make each of the elements for the cake and then how to assemble it. In the next video, I'll teach you how to make chocolate mirror glaze, and in the third video, I'll show you how you can finish the cake with a beautiful sparkly gold spider web effect. Now, we're going to start by baking the pumpkin espresso cake, and one ingredient you'll need for that is kind of hard to find is espresso powder. In fact, I still haven't even been able to find it at the grocery store, but you can order it on Amazon, which I've linked down below. Or what I did was go to a local coffee shop that I like. I just asked them to grind down some espresso for me to the finest they could, and they did, and it worked great. So here are the ingredients and measurements for the cake. Combine the following ingredients into the same bowl and whisk together. 2 cups flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1½ teaspoons pumpkin pie spice, 1 teaspoon cinnamon, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Now in a second bowl, add 1/3 cup packed brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of espresso powder, and 1/2 teaspoon cinnamon, and stir together. Now just grab a 15-ounce can of pumpkin puree, 4 large eggs at room temperature. Measure out 3/4 cups vegetable oil, 1 cup brown sugar, 3/4 cup granulated sugar, and 1 teaspoon vanilla. So preheat your oven to 350 degrees and then prepare your pan. I'm going to be using a sheet tray, and I like to spray it first, and then I dust it with flour. And then once it's all dusted, I'm just going to lay a piece of parchment paper in the bottom. Now grab your mixer and the paddle attachment, and you're going to start by combining the pumpkin and the eggs. And you can add your vanilla here too. Then slowly pour in your vegetable oil while the mixer is running. Once those are combined, add both sugars and just mix until well blended. Now just slowly mix in the dry ingredients until combined. Now just grab your pan and the espresso brown sugar filling, and you'll put in the pan about half of the cake batter. And you can use a bowl scraper to help you smooth it out nice and flat. Now take the filling and a spoon, and I like to do mine in rows like this. And then I'm going to kind of mix it in with a knife. And then add the rest of the batter. And then I'll use my scraper to cover all the filling areas and flatten out the cake. And then if you want, you can add the rest of this. I do it in the little splotches. And then I use my scraper to mix it so that the dry crumble isn't on the top. And then you want to try to get it as flat as you can so that it bakes as evenly as possible. And once you're satisfied with how level you've got it, then you just pop it in the oven, and it only takes about 18 to 20 minutes to bake. Now, while the cake is baking, you can prepare the espresso caramel filling, and I'm not about to make life harder than it already is today with this recipe. So I'm going to start with 16 ounces of Peter's caramel. Once measured, go ahead and place that in a microwave safe bowl. And then add 1/2 cup heavy cream and 2 teaspoons espresso powder into a small pot. Go ahead and whisk those together and place your pot on the stove on medium heat. And you're going to warm up the heavy cream and espresso just until they're simmering, just to get the flavors going. And while you wait for your heavy cream to warm up on the stove, you can start warming up your caramel in the microwave by heating it for 30 seconds at a time on power level 5. Now, once your heavy cream was simmering, you'll add it to your slightly melted caramel, and depending on how long your caramel was in the microwave, mine was in there for 60 seconds so far, and it's pretty soft. I'm going to start stirring it together, but it's not going to combine fully yet. So now I'll just continue heating it the same way in the microwave for 30 seconds at a time on power level 5 until the caramel is soft enough to combine with the heavy cream. This is after 30 more seconds. And I'm just stirring it to see how soft the caramel is. And it's not ready yet, so 30 more. Okay, it's getting close. So the reason I use power level 5 is to avoid burning the caramel or the cream. So now it's definitely melty. I'm just gonna keep stirring it until the cream is all mixed in with the caramel. And if there's small little lumps after you've got it combined, you can pop it in the microwave again on power level 5 for however long you think it needs, 15 seconds, maybe not the full 30 seconds. So I'm gonna try 15 seconds. All right, so here's our espresso caramel filling. And to cool it, you're just going to leave it at room temperature and cover it with a piece of plastic wrap so that it doesn't get a film on the top, and you're going to lay the plastic wrap right up against the caramel. And let it cool down just like that. So this has been in the oven for about 19 minutes. I'm just going to check it with a toothpick just to make sure that it comes out clean. And now I'll let it cool down for about 30 minutes at room temperature, and then I'll put it in the fridge for another 30 minutes just to speed up the cooling process. For the candied pecans, you'll need the oven, so start these after your cake is all baked. You'll want to cool the oven down to 250 degrees and grab the following ingredients. 12 ounces of chopped pecans, and then in a small bowl, combine 1/2 cup brown sugar, 1/2 cup granulated sugar, 1½ teaspoons of cinnamon, and 1/2 teaspoon salt. Then just whisk those together and set aside. And then in another bowl, combine 1 large egg white with 1 tablespoon of water. And then you'll just beat the egg and water until it's nice and frothy. Now you'll just coat your pecans with the egg white mixture. And then do the same with the brown sugar mixture. Now just line a sheet tray with aluminum foil and spread your pecans evenly on the foil. You'll bake these for 1 full hour and stir them every 15 minutes. Now, the last thing we need to make before we can assemble the cake is some dark chocolate ganache. For this recipe, I'm going to use a soft chocolate ganache so that it doesn't set up too firm in the fridge. So I'll be using equal parts chocolate and heavy cream, and be sure to use a good quality dark chocolate like bittersweet Candied chocolate. So just start by measuring out 16 ounces of the dark chocolate into a bowl. And then go ahead and measure 16 ounces of heavy cream into a pot. And then you're going to heat the heavy cream on the stove at medium to high heat until it's simmering. Now once your heavy cream is simmering, you're just going to pour it straight over the chocolate and let it sit for just a minute to start melting the chocolate. Now, after you've let it melt for a minute, just start stirring it. And you'll just stir it like that until it's all combined and nice and smooth. And we'll set this aside while we cut the cakes because it needs to cool down a little bit before we can use it for piping and frosting. So the cake is all cool, and I'm going to take it out of this pan so I can cut it into 8-inch circles. First, I'll just take a knife around the edges. And then I'm going to do a little flippy flip thing. I'm going to take another sheet tray and flip it over. And then peel off the parchment and replace it with a fresh one. Then I'm going to flip it again. And then carefully slide it off the sheet tray. So now I'm just taking my 8-inch cake board and I'm going to use a paring knife to cut out 3 layers. And 1 layer will be split in half, like this. We do one from this side of the cake and another from the other side of the cake. Now I'll just take a spare sheet tray with parchment and move my cake layers carefully onto this. And I'm going to put them in the freezer for a little while to get nice and chilled before I stack them. It'll just make them a little more stable. Into the freezer. All right, now that I'm done preparing all the elements for the full cake, it is time to assemble it. All right, so the cakes are all chilled from the freezer, and I've got all of our elements for the cake. I have some of the ganache that's set to room temperature just in the bowl here. And then I put some in a piping bag to pipe around the edge of the cake when I'm filling it. I put the caramel also in a piping bag. And I've got the pecans over here. And I have this turntable just to help me stack the cake. So I'm going to start with a full layer for the bottom. And then I'm going to start with a pretty thin layer of ganache on the full layer, just to kind of keep the caramel from soaking into the cake too much. I like a little barrier for the bottom layer. And then to fill, I'm going to start by piping a dam around the edge of the cake. With ganache like that. And then I need to cut a hole in my bag here for the caramel. And then I'm just going to fill, I want a bigger one. Then I'll fill this with caramel. That's better. When I'm not piping, I like to put the caramel up like this so it doesn't fall out, and then sprinkle pecans. I'm kind of patting them down into the caramel so they're not sticking up too much. And if it looks like the pecans are a little taller than your ganache dam, then you can add just another little one on top so that when the cake gets laid down, it's more even. And any extra will just squish out the side, which is okay. So now I'm taking the split layer and I'm going to line it up with the cake underneath so that it's nice and straight on the side. And I'll do the same with the second half, but I know there's a little gap here because I measured, and I want them to stick together and not crack down the middle. So I'm just adding a little ganache to help fill in the gap and also stick them together. And it's not big enough, so you want it to be in line with the outside. Okay. If you have too much of a gap, you can take some of the scraps, and I've already cut them in strips like this, and kind of just shove them in there. And then we fill it exactly the same as the last layer. Okay, now once I get the third layer on, I'm just going to press it down, make sure everything settles. And then I want to clean some of the crumbs off. Actually, yeah, clean some of these crumbs off. And I'm going to do a dirty coat of ganache first to fill in all these crumbs and cracks. Make sure everything's sealed in. And since I have this some in here, I'll start with this. I'm going to put some on the top edge. Help square it off a little. So basically, I'm just trying to get a thin coat on the whole edge, and I'm just kind of pressing my offset spatula and having it fill in all the little holes. And just try to hold it straight so that you get a nice straight edge like this. And then you can do the top as well. And when you do the top, you actually want to go across, like past the edge, to fill in the corner. And then the side again to give it a lip on the top edge. And then level it off. And if you think you did a pretty good job with the first coat, you don't have to do a second coat. I don't have actually really any, well, I have some crumbs sticking out, but not a ton. So I might just finish this with the glaze as it is, but maybe I'll just add some chocolate in a couple places to fully cover it, and then we'll call this good. As long as it's smooth, it'll look good underneath the glaze. It's mostly down at the bottom that I didn't put enough ganache. So I'm just filling in that bottom. And that looks pretty smooth. I think it'll glaze well, so I'm not gonna mess with it too much more, but I see a little gap here. You can mess with it forever, never get it perfect. I just want the top to be level is the only thing. That looks a little tall. Okay. All right. So this is good, and I'm going to put it in the fridge for at least a couple hours to set up. Okay, the cake is all assembled now and ready to finish off with a nice, shiny chocolate mirror glaze, a cool golden spiderweb net effect, and some chocolate decorations. If you'd like to learn how to finish the cake just like this, remember to stick around for my next 2 videos, and don't forget to click the link down below in order to download the recipe. If you found this video helpful, please let me know by liking it down below, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, today's the day. And if you'd like to see something else that's sweet, just go ahead and click on one of these thumbnails. Thanks so much for watching today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.